Boys, what's going on? Welcome to a very special edition of the Armchair GM Show, where it's just going to be me. I might do a call-in show a little bit later. We will see if you guys earn the right for that. But we got a lot to talk about. We got a whole lot to talk about because a lot of things have happened. A lot of hires were made. A lot of moves were made. And boy, do I need a haircut. Do I desperately need a haircut? I'm not even going to let you guys see this. I'm going to go get a hat. Give me a second. Woo! Much better. I need a haircut. I don't understand how my wife lets me leave the house looking like this. Unbelievable. Yeah. Lots of things. Within the last couple of hours, the New York Jets have hired a special teams coordinator, a defensive coordinator, and an offensive line coach, and we're going to talk about all of those guys. So I'm very, very excited to dive into all of that with you guys. Just getting some things ready on my end, letting the crowds come in. Let's say hello to some people. Jimmy Jets. Tigo corralling the little ones to start the show. Absolutely, my guy. It's all about getting them to bed and doing all of those things. So, yep. Wild Wave, what's going on? I saw your tweet. You see what I mean, man? They went up 13%. 13%. 13% is a whole lot. Jimmy Jets again. What's good? I am just trying to pull up the histories of some of these guys and some of these new hires that we have, and just trying to pull up all of the things that I might be able to pull up there for these gentlemen. So doing that stuff, pulling up stuff and things. Chris Banjo, and then who is the Steve Hayden? Don't know much about Steve Hayden. But he is our new offensive line coach. I'm excited about that because hiring Steve Hayden, you know what that means? You know what means? I do too, Wild Wave. I'm with you. I value our future too. I've got 2 kids. I know about valuing the future. Don't get it twisted. But you can do 2 things at the same time. You don't have to... Just because we're digging into a little bit of the future doesn't mean we're mortgaging the future. There's a difference. Salary cap doesn't let you do that, Wild Wave. Salary cap doesn't let you do that. It's the way this business works. It's the sad truth, but it is the truth. I wish it wasn't like that. I wish that we could just keep everybody that you'd like. I wish there was kind of like an NBA kind of thing where you could, like, if you draft a player, you can pay them. Like, I wish there was an incentive for players to stay on the teams that drafted them. And I wish there was an incentive for teams to play players that they drafted. Because I think that you can do both. Whether it's like a flat out, like, hey, if you keep a player that you drafted, right, you get a 7.5% discount on their cap hit, like the total cap number. I don't know what this means, Jimmy Jets. I'm sorry. I'm not. I wish I did. I wish I knew what this meant. I know this is referencing basketball, but what I know of basketball is that Luka Doncic plays for the Mavericks and used to play for Real Madrid. That's where my knowledge starts and ends. And that if I want to get people riled up, find out who they think the GOAT is and say it's the other guy. So if they're a Jordan's the GOAT, just say it's LeBron. And if they're LeBron's the GOAT, say it's Jordan. And that's it. And that's kind of where my thing is. Boom. See, it works. And I would even say, like, look, it is a I would even make it like a range where you get like a 5% discount on first round picks, a 6% discount on second and third round picks, and anything after the third round, so fourth, fifth, sixth, and seventh round picks, you get a 7.5% discount on their cap hits. And so the incentive is to keep your own guys, keep them around, and then, the incentive is don't just hit on your first round guys, which I think a lot of teams generally do, but the real incentive is go and hit on your late round picks, because you can get a big discount if you can find a guy who can start and he gets paid. That's awesome. That guy should go get paid and then keep him around. I like this idea. Does anybody have Woody's number? I'm texting Woody. Or Brick. We know he runs the New York Jets. Connor! What's going on, man? How are you feeling about the new hires that the New York Jets just did? New special teams coordinator, defensive coordinator, and all of that stuff. I'm real excited. Thank you, Wild Wave, for sharing the stream. I really appreciate you. Guys, if you are here and you are hanging out and you do want to help the stream, a great way to do it is to hit that like button. Really, really helps us out. But also, share it with all of your friends. Get more people in here. It's a good time when we have the chat rolling. It's all that stuff. Trade up for Cam Ward. I don't see. Nah, I'm good. Can we just hire Engstrat already? Jay, I'm with you. Me and Connor were literally talking about this like a week ago, where, Connor brought up Engstrat because I was saying, like, who are the guys that I wanted for OC? And Connor, rightfully so, brought up Engstrat. And I was just like, oh, I would love Engstrat, but he's not coming to the Jets. He's either going to stay in Detroit, or he's going to go to Chicago. Like, that's a done deal. Like, that's not real, right? Like, we're not going to be able to get Engstrat. And I was like, when the news came out that Detroit went with the other guy, I forget his name because I'm not a Detroit Lions fan, and that Chicago went someone else instead of Engstrat, and that Engstrat is now available, he jumped to my list. I would love to go get Engstrat. I think, though, that there is a legitimate conversation to be had between Engstrat and Caley, and I think that that's what they're debating right now, is which one of those guys do they really, really want operating the offense for the New York Jets, because neither one of them has play calling experience. Obviously, they're both coming in. I lean Engstrat. Personally, I lean Engstrat because of, and we'll talk about this a little bit later. I had a whole thing planned, and so I'll get into it. I had a whole thing planned and a comp, blah, 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 what we're going to talk about, why I think Engstrat is such a good idea. But yeah. Huge fan of the hires, me too, Connor. Dude, Wild Wave is my friend on Discord. Just send me the link. I'll join. I'm fun sometimes, most of the times. John Morton, thank you very much, Jimmy Jets. AVT jersey, thanks and courtesy to New York Jets Situation Report or Gunny. I won that in the draft a year ago, last draft, for getting most of the top 10 picks right and predicting where the quarterbacks went. That is a signed Elijah Vera Tucker jersey. You can see the signature right there. We're working on getting that in a shadow box. I'm very, very, very excited. Cam Ward is the best quarterback prospect since Burrow can't miss. I disagree, Matthew, but more power to you, I guess. That's on you. So let's talk about these guys. That we've hired. Let's start with the biggest hire, our first coordinator, defensive coordinator for the New York Jets, Steve Wilks. I'm very excited about this hire. Why am I excited for the hiring of Steve Wilks? One, he is a veteran defensive coach. He has been a defensive coordinator at some level since 1995. That's when I was born. He's been a defensive coordinator for 30 years. Because I turned 30 this year. And the NFL season starts in the middle of the year. So by the time the season starts, he will have been a coordinator for 30 years. And he has a ton of experience, head coaching experience, coordinator experience, position coach experience, a bunch of stuff. He is, I saw it, Connor, I will join momentarily. There's a bunch of stuff there. And when we look at what Steve Wilks brings as a coordinator, what he brings as a defensive play caller, there are a lot of positive things that you want to look at. A couple of things to expect from Steve Wilks as a defensive coordinator. One, expect the defense to be much more aggressive. We're going to blitz a whole lot more. And because we're going to blitz and because we're going to get aggressive, that means that we are now going to play man coverage more. And this is a positive in two ways. One, our players are better suited for man coverage, specifically the stars on our defensive side of the ball in the secondary. So what I mean by that is Sauce Gardner, one of the reasons that if you look back at a lot of the conversations and the things that were happening during the 2021 draft when we took Sauce Gardner, was it 21, 22? Whatever the year that we took Sauce Gardner, Garrett, JJ, all those guys. One of the things that we looked at and one of the conversations that was had is what team at the top of the draft is going to take Sauce Gardner? Because Sauce Gardner, in my opinion, and that draft was the best corner in the draft because of the fact that I also really liked DSJ. Totally, Shane. We're going to get there. We're going to get there. Give me a second. I'm on a rant, and I'm getting back to the chat. We'll get there. I shouldn't be looking at you guys letting you distract me. But one of the things that we were having a conversation about was, well, if you're going to take a corner at the top of the draft and we're going to be playing under Saleh, the primary role that we should be looking for is a zone coverage corner, someone who's going to be good in zone coverage, playing over the top of the receiver, coming back down on the ball. That was DSJ, but you couldn't risk the pick on DSJ because of the injury history. This is the first year in DSJ's career where he's played all 17 games plus the playoffs. He hasn't been able to finish an entire season before this because, again, those injuries keep coming up. And to Robert Saleh's credit, he did a very good job of still getting Sauce Gardner in man coverage looks by playing a zone scheme called quarter halves, which is on one side of the field, you play quarter coverage. So you have a safety and a corner covering half of the field, right, over the top, and then your zones underneath. But on the other half of the field, you have one corner or safety, generally it's a corner, covering that half of the field. And what that does schematically is essentially put the corner that's on the half side, which tended to be Sauce, on man coverage, because he had to carry that receiver through his zone regardless of what was happening. And so we still found ways to get Sauce into man coverage and excel in his skill set. But with Wilks coming in, he plays way more balanced play calling. We're gonna play like, I think what a good way to look at it is we're gonna play like 40% zone coverage, 40% man coverage, and like 20% of the time we're sending the heat. We're sending blitzes. We're sending corner blitzes, safety blitzes, linebacker blitzes, stunts, and all of these things. There's going to be a lot more dynamicism to our defensive play calling than essentially just playing cover 3 every play from now until the end of time and having a bend, don't break mentality. We're going to get back to playing a highly aggressive defense. Let us not forget that when Steve Wilks was the defensive coordinator for the 49ers, that they ranked 8th in total yards allowed, that they were 12th in EPA under Wilks. So And when they replaced Wilks, the defense in San Francisco got worse. Now, there was injuries and all of those things, but like statistically, the defense just got worse under Wilks. And he got scapegoated because, well, in the red zone of the Super Bowl, he still got really, really aggressive. And it didn't work out. We saw that, what's his name? The ex-Jet went out there. He sent the heat trying to get to Patrick Mahomes, and Patrick Mahomes found the open guy and got a touchdown. So I love the Steve Wilks hire. He's a veteran. He's going to be able to help Aaron Glenn. And I think the most important thing of all with all of this is that this is going to give Aaron Glenn the opportunity to truly be just the head coach. He doesn't have to be the head coach worrying about the defense. Steve Wilks and Aaron Glenn align philosophically. That's important. Philosophically, they match up. It's aggressive. It's back to front. Our defenses recently have been front to back. Our defensive line is going to be the focal point, and our secondary is going to be secondary. But we're going to build this defense now back to front. Our guys are going to get home because the coverage is going to be sticky, and that matters. So I'm a big fan of that. It's a good change of pace, and defense is going to be fun to watch again. Oh, let's talk about Cam Ward. We can talk about Cam Ward a little bit later. I want to talk about all the news that came out, like Steve Wilks. Thank you, Connor. Appreciate it. And Wilks was the interim head coach for the Panthers and was good. Yes, he was. He was an interim head coach of the Panthers. He wasn't given an opportunity. And that, let's not act like that Panthers defense wasn't effective. It wasn't good, but it was effective. And that matters. That matters a whole lot. Love that. Wilks is big, makes it easier for us to get an innovative young OC with less experience. Jake, that is absolutely true. And I think someone made a comment about that. Another thing that's really, really beneficial is the fact that Glenn has so much support around him in terms of like the guys that he's trying to hire and the people in the industry, that having guys like Todd Haley come in to be a senior offensive assistant, Mike Westhoff coming out of retirement to help and support Aaron Glenn. These are huge names and like big guys with a ton of experience that, while they're not going to have all of the say, or let's say the ability to change schematically what we're doing, and I don't want those things because obviously like Westhoff has been out of the NFL for quite some time, and Haley is kind of a failed coach, if we're being honest. Regardless of all those things, they have experience doing these jobs at the NFL at a high level, and those connections matter because, like I said, Todd Haley coming in, he's not going to dictate the scheme. He's not going to dictate the play calling. He's just going to say, look, the great offenses of old and these great coaching staffs of old, this is how they operated. It's still your scheme. It's still your plays. It's still your designs. But this is how we operated as a staff. And this is what you can do in today's day and age to help facilitate those things. Like, I was talking about Todd Haley, Lake, not Westhoff. Was he? No, he wasn't. Westhoff retired. Oh my God, he was the assistant head coach in Denver? I thought he retired in 2018. I didn't know he came back. That's on me. You right, Kiuka. That's on me. I'll take that. He came back to help Denver. He came back to help Peyton. I thought he was done after 2018. That's on me. You right. I'll take my L. When I need to take my L. I got it there. I think Wilks has always been in the top 10. Yep, very, very good. Doesn't Wilks still play zone? Absolutely, but he gets aggressive and he plays blitz a lot, and it's very hard to play zone when you're blitzing because you have less guys to cover zone, so you tend to play man coverage. Maybe you have a tendency, Shane, in like your blitzes to have like the safeties over the top play zones. Like they'll play their halves of the field and then everybody else is just manned up. And if someone goes deep, they get doubled. That's a thing that you tend to see with some defenses. But generally speaking, if you're going to blitz, you're going to play man coverage. And you're just going to try to make the throws as hard as possible, make those windows as small as possible. We got the experience former head coach to fund the D. We can get the less experienced OC with Glenn just being a head coach, the CEO. I think I understand what you're saying here. He definitely got scapegoated talking about Wilks. The OC needs to be a vet too. I completely and fundamentally disagree. There is not a single offensive coordinator that's a veteran out there. If you can give me a name, Billy, of a veteran offensive coordinator that actually is worth a damn, I'll concede it to you, but there isn't a single person of the names that are available at offensive coordinator right now that are calling a modern offense. My priority is running a modern offense. I don't care about the age or veterans or anything like that. I think a lot of people like to bank on, we got to get a veteran. I don't care about any of that stuff. Are they a good coach and can they operate a modern offense? That's all I care about. I don't care how much experience they have. Todd Haley is going to come in and work with the young OC, Billy. He will be an assistant/advisor. Yep, brought that. I think Wilks was good stepping in as interim, which is hard to do. People wanted him to stay in North Carolina after that season. Yeah, and very rarely do you see an interim head coach get the position, specifically with like teams that tend to be in that position are failing teams, and very rarely do you see those guys turn those teams around. And I think like a really, really good example of that is this year in the Saints. Dennis Allen got fired and Rizzi got promoted to interim head coach, and I actually think that Rizzi did a good job. And it seems like Rizzi is still in the running to be the head coach there, but it seems like New Orleans is probably going to go the Kellen Moore route, but yeah, Glenn has a lot of connections, something Saleh didn't have. I think Saleh had yeah. Again, there are a ton of people that like Saleh, like we tried Greg Knapp, all of those things, and we know what happened there, unfortunately. But yeah. Okay, Kyuka, I admitted to this. Okay, gosh. Yeah, I saw we picked up a guy from Denver for special teams coach. He was definitely a Westhoff guy. Yes, he was a Westhoff guy. A couple of things about, let's transition into Chris Banjo. I see your stuff, guys. I'll get to the chat. I got it open. We're getting there. Chris Banjo is only 34 years old. He was the assistant special teams coordinator in Denver this past year. He played 10 years in the NFL, primarily as a special teams ace for those years. And was coached by Aaron Glenn. So there is a connection there. To be clear, Banjo seems to be a Sean Payton Westhoff guy. Like it's a trust us, this guy's legit, hire this guy for your special teams. And special teams matters. And so I'm not going to just sign up on Chris Banjo and say he's great and blah, 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 blah. Like all of those things. But those are very, very high endorsements. I respect the hell out of Westhoff, and I think Sean Payton, unfortunately, even though I wanted to get mad at Sean Payton, he was right. I hate to admit that, but he was right about Hackett and all of the things that he said, unfortunately. But if we look at the special teams in Denver, specifically this past year, they ranked 11th in overall EPA for their special teams unit, which is really good the last 2 years, which is where where Banjo was on Peyton's staff. But also, I believe this year they blocked like 5 punts or stopped like 5 punts at the 1 yard line this year, which was a stat I think Zach Rosenblatt dropped out there, which is just absolutely insane. So special teams can win you games, and putting teams on the 1 yard line can win you games, especially when you've got studs like we do on defense, and hopefully with this renewed vigor on defense and a bunch of the guys that we're going to add. Chris Banjo, I'm going to be cautiously optimistic. I wanted Rizzy. I wanted Darren Rizzy because he's a firecracker. I love that dude. But he wanted to wait out. I think we wanted to get our special teams coordinator in as soon as possible, and Banjo seems like a great way to go about that. Let's see what you guys said. That's why he is big on Banjo and willing to help out in training camp. Yep, that is true. Was there any news on Anthony Lynn possibly coming in to be a running backs coach / head coaching assistant? I haven't seen anything about that, like, at all. The problem is that he's currently with the Commanders. You would need to give him a bigger promotion. So, because you can't just steal him to be a running backs coach, because he's already a running backs coach and a run game coordinator with the commies. And let's be honest, why would you want to leave the commies right now? Like, to come to the Jets. Like, I know Aaron Glenn is your boy and those things, and obviously he was a New York Jet and all of those things, but you know what I mean? Like, he was a Jets coach before is what I was trying to say. He was a giant as a player. You get what I'm saying? It's just hard in that situation. I would love it. I would honestly love it, but I haven't seen anything like that. What's Frank Reich doing right now? Not coaching. That's the reality of it. I don't think Frank Reich is going to take a offensive coordinator position anytime soon. I think he's going to try to throw his name back in the hat for head coaching hires next cycle. You know, like, he's going to try to be in that cycle of guys. Because you don't hear anything about Frank Reich anywhere. So, Deuce Staley would be a good hire for assistant head coach / running back coach. Deuce. Need to look him up because I forget names. Deuce Staley. Running backs coach with the Cleveland Browns, and then the Carolina Panthers, and then the Detroit Lions. I'm not against it. You get to a certain point where you get too many cooks in the kitchen. You know what I mean? And, like, here's the thing. If we're going to bring Todd Haley to be a senior offensive assistant, awesome. Then I don't want to go and get, like, another guy on offense that's also going to be, like, an assistant head coach, like, that kind of dynamic. I don't necessarily love that dynamic. Steve Wilks is coming in to be the defensive coordinator, and he's going to operate that defense. And my assumption is that Tanner Engstrat is going to come in, and he's going to be the offensive coordinator, and he's going to run that thing. And Westhoff is going to come in to help Aaron Glenn and Banjo to get his things going in the offseason, and then he's going to go back to retirement. And then keeping it going, you go, like, Todd Haley is going to be there to support Engstrat in whatever he's doing. And again, I'm speaking this into existence. He hasn't been hired officially yet. And I don't necessarily think that you get too many cooks in the kitchen, you end up with what Robert Saleh was doing. There was too many cooks in the kitchen. There's too many people in his head talking to him. And Aaron Glenn's the head coach of this football team. Steve Wilks is going to be the defensive coordinator of this football team. Tanner Engstrat's going to be the offensive coordinator of this football team. Again, speaking that one into existence. Let's just leave it at that. Let's get guys that can help and support those guys. Totally. But let's not get too many cooks in the kitchen. Let's operate a relatively, like, you know, modern NFL football team. Now, if you're telling me that you want to bring Deuce Staley in to be our running backs coach and our run game coordinator, I'm on board. That's a different title, and that's a different thing entirely. I'm on board with that. But I don't like this idea of having position coaches also be assistant head coaches, and I'm not a fan of that stuff, personally. Billy, he's still collecting. Yeah, he is doing that. Two-way street, he has to want to come here. Hell yeah, special teams matters. Absolutely. He got a job right away. Reich didn't. Reed took Eagles to a lot of success where Reich got canned in one season and flamed out in Indy before that. Yep. Didn't they hire the QB coach too? They did. We're about to talk about our... no, they didn't hire a QB coach. We're talking to a QB coach. We hired an O-line coach, I believe. Somebody double check that we didn't hire a QB coach. Because I saw that news that we talked to the assistant QB coach of the Commies, and we're going to talk about them. We're going to talk about him a little bit later. But if that hiring is official, I am unaware of that. Somebody tell me that in chat. That would be really, really great. Adam Gase is elite at parking cars, bro. You don't know ball. Adam Gase might be back in the NFL this year. He is being apparently talked about as being the quarterback's coach in Chicago. Let's not forget, Ben Johnson was on Adam Gase's staff in Miami. You might want to do his old head coach a favor. Just saying. Billy, they could, but they have to agree to interviews and want to be here. Yep. Eagles OC is going to be the Saints head coach. That is seemingly where it's headed. Yeah, it seems like Kellen Moore is going to be the head coach of the New Orleans Saints. No way anyone hires Gase. I'm telling you, bro, there's steam. There's steam to this one. There's smoke, I'm sorry. There's some... It might happen. It might happen. I don't understand why someone would want to hire him, but where there's smoke, there's fire, and there's smoke on this one. So glad we didn't hire Ben Johnson if it's true. There are other things I'm more concerned about with Ben Johnson, but I think Ben Johnson, well, we're gonna have to give it some time. Steve Hyden, new offensive line coach we didn't interview him. He doesn't have any overlap with Glenn. Why are we going to the Viking staff? We've already interviewed two guys from two really, really good offenses that are probably going to be touted to be our offensive coordinator. Either Angstrat or Cayley. Give me either one of them. Either one of them I would be totally fine with. A guy who's been with Sean McVay and got promoted after 1 year and has gotten nothing but glowing reviews, and then the quarterback coach to Ben Johnson, the guy who runs the amoeba offense. I'm cool with that. I'm cool with either one of those guys. Back to Hyden. Hyden is from Detroit. He was the tight end coach in Detroit for the last 2 years, 2023 and 2024. And before that was the tight ends coach in Arizona. Before that was the assistant offensive line coach in Arizona. And before that was the assistant special teams and assistant tight ends coach in Arizona. He has been coaching since 2013, and this is going to be his first time being an offensive line coach in the NFL. Story is, and rumor is with Steve Hyden, is that he always wanted to be an offensive line coach. He was a tight end in the NFL and was known for, guess what? His blocking, and there is a lot of crossover in blocking when it comes to like tight ends and the offensive line. And that's where he wanted to be a coach, he wanted to be an offensive line coach, not a tight end coach. And I think because he was a tight end, he was pigeonholed into that spot. And obviously, he knows Glenn from his time in Detroit, and he is giving him this opportunity to be the offensive line coach in New York. This is a interesting hire. The New York Jets have failed to get the offensive line coach right for a long, long time. But when we look at the the tight ends for the Detroit Lions and the tight ends for the Arizona Cardinals, when he was their tight ends coach, they all tended to grade really, really well at blocking. And Some of that is because they were just getting and drafting guys that were good blockers before they came into the NFL. And part of that, you're going to have to give credit where credit is due, is to his coaching. I'm hoping, because when you look at our offensive line room right now, it is filled with a ton of young guys with potential that just need coaching. And if he can come in here and really get the best out of the guys that we have in the building, we can really, really improve, right? Because we're starting at the bottom of the barrel. We're talking about, I think that there is a legit debate to be had that we would have been better served not having an offensive line coach and just letting Morgan Moses and Tyron Smith lead the practices and those meetings than having Keith Carter on the football team. That's where we're at. So having a guy who, again, is a first-time offensive line coach gives me some worry, because that is a position that really, really matters, right? On the one of the things that I've learned over the last 7 or 8 years is just how important these position coaches really are to the betterment and to the improvement of your football team, specifically with the offensive line coach. It's so key and it's so important to your blocking schemes and everything that you want to do. You got to get this hire right. So Steve Hyden is an interesting hire there. I was Vrabel number 1, Ben Johnson number 2. I was all in on Glenn for weeks when I realized they were out. If he's hiring Gase, we dodged a bullet. Totally. Again, I don't think he would bring Gase to the Jets, but I think Ben is just doing his old head coach a favor. I think Gase gave him a call and was like, "Hey, I need to get back into the NFL. Can you pay me to do that, to be your quarterback's coach?" Because Gase was, by all accounts, he was a good quarterback's coach. Just wasn't good at everything else. I think Woody and the New York media would have bended over Cohen and Ben Johnson. I think Ben, I wanted Ben for his mind. Obviously, as an offensive play caller, Ben is so unique when it comes to offensive play calling. And that's why I'm a big fan of Tanner Engstrat. But I think you're absolutely right. I don't think either one of those guys. And again, I was a big Liam Cohen and Ben Johnson fan. I don't know if either of those guys would be able to handle the New York media and the New York pressure. Like, Aaron Glenn showed up and in his first press conference told the media to shut up, sit down, take a back seat, relax. You're not going to keep asking me these same questions, because you're going to get the same answer. So if you want to waste your question, because I'm not going to go back to you. So if you want to waste your question, cool, do it. I'll give you the same answer. And just like, he put them in his place. And I love that. Remember New York Jets Monday night comeback on Miami? Aaron Glenn does. Yes, he does. Because the Vikings were ninth in points, scored 6 in passing yards with Sam Darnold. Udinsky had something to do with that. Yeah. And they lost both times to the Lions offense. And Engstrat had something to do with that, plus more. I'm not anti-Udinsky, but I don't know. There's no crossover there. There's just no overlap over there. And we're not bringing him in. I don't want to talk about a guy that we're just not going to bring in. We can talk about everybody. Go bring in Mike McCarthy. Mike McCarthy's not going to take an offensive coordinator position. There's no point in having these conversations about guys we're not talking to. But yeah. I was saying this, Jake. Literally anyone but Keith Carter is a win. We would have been better off with no O-line coach the last couple of years. Bro, me and Jake, samesies. Letting them coach themselves was, dude, now it looks like I saw what Jake said and I took his comments. Jake, how dare you? Keith Carter looks like Ryan. He absolutely does. Duval. Yeah, it was bad. By Peyton Manning accounts, Gase was good. Manning didn't need a QB coach in Denver. It was another Hackett. They were just buddies. Yeah. Yep. You're absolutely right. I think I didn't necessarily... Let's be very clear. Let's be very clear here. Mekhi Becton, when he went to the Eagles, he did not go to the Eagles to play guard. That was never on the books for him there. He went there to refix his game, to do all of those things, and he was going to be the tackle that theoretically The idea was that he would come in, show his worth, and that after this year, when it appears like Lane Johnson might retire because he's 35 years old, that Mekhi Becton would step in to be the right tackle. That's why he went to the Philadelphia Eagles. But circumstances put him at right guard, specifically injuries and all those things. And he has been phenomenal there. And so Jimmy is true here. He refused. With the New York Jets, he refused. So, no, he refused out and out. I can confirm that he said he was a tackle, he didn't want to play guard, and that he fought tooth and nail to not take guard reps, and that he just outright refused to do so. He got humbled when he hit the free agent market and no one really wanted him, and then Philly went and got him. $25 people in here. Guys, do we have any update? Did we hire the quarterbacks coach, or was that just a thing? I'm going to assume we didn't hire a quarterbacks coach. I think that's the smart thing to do. Checking Twitter. Boom. Can't find. Yeah. Can't find anything, so it doesn't seem. Can't seem like we did anything. Cool. Just interviewing. Thank you. Let's talk about this upcoming draft because there's a lot of things. Hey, thanks, Jake. Everyone listen to Jake. That's not true, Billy. We have a head coach. I think that's going to be the thing that matters the most. That's what's going to matter the most. We have the head coach. Rob Calabrese is with the Rams. Cuca Lake, he is with the Rams. He is an offensive assistant for the Rams and will probably be their quarterbacks coach if we take Kaylee. If we're being honest. If we go get Nick Caley, probably takes Nick's job. If we're being honest. Maybe not, because he was a quarterbacks coach. And Nick Caley is a tight ends coach. Yeah. Okay, let's talk about this. We got to talk about this. Why is that? Dude, he was hired last week. It was on Wednesday. The offseason hasn't even started. It's going to take way longer than a week for them to figure this thing out. Relax, Billy. It's going to take time. I'm worried Kaylee is going to Tampa. That's a possibility. Kaylee can also go to Houston, but it really looks like they want to get Chip Kelly, which blows my mind, but it really looks like they want to get Chip Kelly at Houston, and they're interviewing a couple of people, obviously. But yeah, again, there's a couple of names. Kaylee's a good name, and Kaylee was my number one before I found out that Engstrat was a real possibility. Engstrat wants to call plays. The New York Jets is the best place to do it. Joshua trying to get banned. That's what's happening right here. That's what's happening right here. Joshua's trying to get banned. So is Jimmy, apparently. Rodgers is a known factor. Shouldn't take the head coach that long to know who he wants his QB to be unless he's waiting for his OC to make the decision. Dude, this is objectively just not true because it's not just on Aaron Glenn. And it's not just, hey, I want Aaron Rodgers to be the quarterback. Evaluating a roster is going to take a long time. It's going to take a couple of weeks. Let's not forget that Rodgers needs to want to come back. He's 41 years old. It's not just, hey, we want Rodgers back because he can retire. He's not going to know anything yet. For example, Billy, why haven't we extended Jamien Sherwood? He's a defensive-minded head coach. He knows the importance of a linebacker, and Jamien Sherwood was tied for 5th in tackles. Why haven't we signed? Dude, because they just got hired. It's going to take some time. Evaluating a roster is going to be something that's going to take a lot of time, and it's going to take a lot of conversations because Aaron Glenn isn't going to be the only one that's going to make that decision, obviously. It's going to come down to what Aaron Glenn and Darren Mougey want to do because it's not just about evaluating Rodgers. It's about evaluating everybody. Now, I think Aaron Glenn should want Aaron Rodgers to come back. It's just, let's see what happens. It's going to take some time. IDK, why we aren't talking about Cam Ward. We're going to suck without him because Cam Ward's not a possibility. Samini said about a half an hour ago, Engstrand looks like the favorite for the job. For the Jets? Really? Explore Dick Chimney. Inevitable staff turnover is happening. Defensive line coach Aaron White Cotton, good coach, has been hired by the Cowboys. I don't care about that. Per sources, create player. Top of the 30 minutes ago. Where's this tweet? Oh yeah, there it is. Inevitable staff turnover is happening. Defensive line coach Aaron White Cotton, a good coach, has been hired by the Cowboys. Offensive line coach Keith Carter is out, replaced by Lions tight end coach Steve Hayden. Lions passing game coordinator Tanner Anstrat likely to join as OC. This is huge. Oh, man. Dick Chimney doing the right things to get my dick tingling. I shouldn't have made that joke. I'm sorry. That was crass. I apologize. Yeah, that shouldn't have done that. Glenn's season just ended. They got to look at it. Yep, totally. Tough year to need a QB. Totally agree. Dude, it's so bad because it's not just bad in the draft. It's bad in the draft and in free agency. Like, there isn't a good answer at all. At all. I don't think that's true. Is that true? I thought it was tied for 5th. Did I just demote him, Wild Wave? Okay, let me ask you this question. Tied for 5th amongst all players or just by linebackers? Let me ask that question because that matters. Ooh. Let me know. I'm pulling up the stats right now. I'm trying to see it. Take some time. Don't clip it. Don't listen to Jimmy. All right, tackling. Regular season. Not regular and postseason. Come on, PFF, hurry up. Tackles. Yeah, it says he's 5th with 109 tackles. Where please check. My list says he's tied for 6th with 109 tackles, which is still insane. Let's be very clear. It's insane. But that's for the entire NFL because Budda Baker as a safety leads the NFL with 122. Now, if we take out everyone who's not a linebacker, he jumps up to 4th, tied for 4th. So no. I'm not saying one of those things. I think the Rodgers decision is going to happen regardless of if we have an OC or not. Obviously, the OC is going to have a say in that, But I don't think, like, if Rodgers came out today and said, I want to come back, and Aaron Glenn was like, awesome, I want you back, that would be done without the OC being hired. Like, I don't think we're going to wait for the OC. So, yeah. That was the point I was trying to make, Billy. Who's Engstrad? We like. Very much we like. Jake, very much we like. He is the passing game coordinator for the Detroit Lions and was with a lot of people there. So, yes, Engstrad is at the top of the list. He should be at the top of our list. He's phenomenal. Hayden has wanted to be an offensive line coach for a while and gets his chance with the Jets. Makes sense to bring him in, Engstrad, as OC with an offensive line coach from the same system. Not just from the same system that they're familiar working with together. Let's not forget that Hayden was the tight ends coach. Tight ends, I don't know if you guys know this. Tight ends do this miraculous thing on other football teams, on good football teams. It's called catching the ball. I don't know if you guys have ever heard about that, but tight ends are allowed to do that too. I know we didn't see that because we had an incompetent offensive coaching staff, but tight ends, a lot of people don't know this, they're also allowed to catch the ball. Can't believe it, right? And when we look at Detroit had a really, really damn good receiving tight end in Sam Laporta, who also was pretty good at blocking. So there you go. Solo tackles. I looked at total tackles, not solo tackles. Not bad for Sherwood. He will probably be gone to Atlanta. I don't know about that because the Steve Wilks hire really, really changes that. Totally. Because we're no longer building front to back. We're building back to front. When you look at what's the word I'm looking for? How this team likes to build and how this, or at least how this team is likely going to like to build specifically on the defensive side of the ball. They're going to prioritize, where's the solo tackles? Do they not have solo tackles here? What the frick? Whatever. I don't care. They're going to prioritize speed and aggression and tackling. And so this, I think a lot of people have just like, oh, well, these players are going to leave. I don't know about all that. The one and only player I know without a shadow of a doubt that isn't coming back is DJ Reed. DJ Reed's not coming back because he's not a man-coverage corner. But Jamien Sherwood graded out as one of the best tight ends in the NFL last year. This is where the evaluation process is going to come in. Do you really think that a defensive-minded head coach is going to come in and not want to keep around one of the best linebackers in football? You know what I'm saying? Especially after 1 year starting, which would mean that because he only has 1 year starting, the number that you could bring him back at would be lower than what they could. Did I say tight ends? Shut up. Did I say tight ends? I meant linebackers. You know what I meant. Shut up. But I hate all of you. You know what I meant. Shut up. What I was getting at is we can give him a 3-year deal at $8 or $9 or $10 million, and he would totally take it because he's still only 25 years old. That would get him in to get paid before he's 30, and it would give him an opportunity to start. So I'm not saying that he's for sure going to stay. That is not what I'm going to say. But I do think that they should prioritize Jamien Sherwood. Because you can't have that much turnover on the defense. Like, I think that's a thing that matters. You can't have, we're going to lose. Let's look at the New York Jets. Let's look at our starting lineup of last year and who we're going to lose. We're going to lose DJ Reed. We're going to lose Kinlaw. We're going to lose Clark and Adams and every safety that played for us and Ashton Davis. So we're going to go into this offseason needing to sign a corner, which I think we should just extend Brandon Eccles. Needing to sign a linebacker. I think we should just keep Sherwood. I don't think Mosley's gone, Drew. I think we keep him. I just don't think he plays over Sherwood. Because I don't think we get much relief at all for cutting CJ. We don't. We lose money by cutting CJ. Yeah, we lose money by cutting CJ. It makes more sense to keep CJ Mosley than it is to cut him, which is absolutely ridiculous. And I don't want to touch his contract because we're already going to have a $7 million cap hit next year because of CJ Mosley. CJ Mosley at 33 years old is more than good enough and more than veteran enough to be a potential, like, hey, one of our linebackers needs a thing. That's different. See, that's a different conversation entirely, Drew. If he hangs up, that's different. But isn't he, like, due a ton of money? Where's CJ Mosley? Isn't he still due some money? That's my thing. Like, why were you going to retire? Yeah, he's, like, still due $9 million. I would play for another year for $9 million. I don't know about you. I would play another year for $9 million. Because, like, again, it doesn't make sense for them to cut me. And if they do, they still have to pay me. So, like, no, if they do, they lose money on the cap because of the bonuses and the stuff that they already gave me. It makes more sense to just keep me on the roster and give me the $9 million than it is to cut me and take a $15 million cap hit. I'm just saying. And he's not bad. He's just not good. You know what I mean? I hope. Okay. You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying. I think Reed goes to San Francisco. I have Reed going to either San Francisco or Pittsburgh, personally, in my opinion. I know it's a crazy thing, but a lot of people don't know this, Cuca Lake. A lot of people don't know this, but tight ends, they're allowed to catch the ball too. It's crazy. Guys, real quick, if you're here and you're hanging out and you're enjoying the time, hit that subscribe button. If you want to see a little dining dinosaur, just hit the subscribe button. And you have to have your subscriptions public. But yeah, if you subscribe, it's a little, boom, a little dancing dinosaur. Do you guys want to see a little example of it? Where is it? Look, if you subscribe, happy dancing dinosaur. So go subscribe. It helps out the channel, and I greatly appreciate it. And it's free. So do that. I hate all of you. I know I messed up. Zach Kuntz, we should be trying out an outside linebacker now. Zach Kuntz should not be on this football team. Oh, talked about that. Joshua, this is going to be the barometer in which I am going to evaluate Darren Mougey. If Michael Clemens is still on this football team. That's my evaluation of Darren Mougey and Aaron Glenn, is if they keep Michael Clemens around. Because it doesn't make sense to keep Michael Clemens around. Because we have Leonard Taylor III, we have Eric Watts, and we have the other guy that I forget his name. So that's why I said Pittsburgh. Yes, they did after he got hurt, and then he was one of the best cornerbacks in football, and Salah's going back, and he's his boy. Jimmy, how dare you? I was in the Navy. You don't disrespect the Navy. Don't do it. We got some beef. We can get some beef going. Is it Conor McGregor? It is McGregor. I don't think it's Conor, though. I don't care. I don't care. Close that. Close that. Close that. I don't need this. I don't need this. I don't need that. I don't need that. Oh, I get it. It's just little brother syndrome, right? You're not a real branch, just a department of the Navy. So you got to... I get it. It's totally fine. It's totally fine. Totally fine. Let's look at the draft. Let's look at the draft. Aaron Glenn was with the Detroit Lions from 2021 to 2024. So let's look at the drafts of 2021 to 2024 and let's see what we might be able to glean or gleam or whatever the word is from those drafts and how we might approach the draft for the New York Jets, starting with Aaron Glenn. So in 2021 was the year where everyone was talking about what are the there was a bunch of conversations or whatever. And the Detroit Lions in 2021, their draft was Penei Sewell, Levi Onwuzurike, Aleem McNeil, Ifeatu Melifonwu, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Derek Barnes, and Jermar Jefferson. So they had 1 first-round pick, 1 second-round pick, 2 thirds, 2 fourths, and a 7th. All of those guys are still in the NFL. All of those guys are still in the NFL. Penei Sewell is arguably one of, if not the best right tackle in all of football right now, and very clearly the heir apparent to Decker whenever he decides to retire. I believe Onwuzurike, I'm going to look him up. I believe he's a free agent this year. Free agency. And then we're going to, where's Detroit? Detroit begins with a D. And then another E. And then a T. Why isn't this alphabetical? Jesus. Onwuzurike is a free agent this year. So there is a possible connection there. For him coming to the New York Jets. Only 27 years old. Last year played 60% of the snaps for Detroit. Give me a second. Detroit Lion team reports. Defense. Onwuzurike. Control F. How do you spell his name? Onwuzurike. He played all 16 games. He played 600 snaps. He got 45 tackles, 3 sacks, 13 hits, 29 hurries, 21 tackles, 4 of them assisted with 4 missed tackles. That's not bad. It's not great, but that's not bad. 6'3", 290 pounds. What does Spotrac have as his... Spotrac. Let me pull up PFF's free agent list. We're going to do this because I'm interested. Free agent rankings, position, interior defenders. Onwuzurike, projected contract, 2 years, $16.5 million, $10 million guaranteed. That's not a bad contract. Yo, that's not that wild. They did get him, Melifonwu. We're going to get to Melifonwu. Carlton Davis is also a free agent. Tigo coming up with a new alphabet song. I have to. I got 2 kids. I got to teach them the alphabet. Who can we afford in free agency, though? We got so many people we got to pay right now, plus the Rodgers salary ankle. Here's the thing. We don't have to pay anybody right now. And Rodgers can give money back. I think people are like not getting that part of it. You know what I mean? There's so many things that we're going to be able to do. We're not that hamstrung on the cap. I think too many people are scared of the cap and not realizing that the cap's not real and not realizing that there are things that we can do. For example, I think one of the easiest things that we can do is, Jimmy, it's not even about an AG discount. It's not even about an AG discount. Right? It's a, does he want to play in the NFL discount? Because his two options are, I want to play in the NFL, so his only option is the New York Jets, or he wants to retire and he leaves. Like, those are his only two options. And from what I understand of Aaron Rodgers, he's not going to want to go out like that. What this past year was, with that play calling, with that atrociousness. So, like, there's some stuff there that we can do. Because if he wants to play, one, because he's already said that he would give money back, right? So I think that's number one. Number two is one of the things that I just laid out. If he wants to play football in the NFL, the New York Jets are the only destination that he's going to go. That's the reality. So what premium players is Miami losing? The only team that fundamentally is screwed because of the cap is New Orleans. That's it. Miami is New Orleans and the Browns. And that's because the Browns gave a fully guaranteed contract like an idiot. Like idiots. Everyone else is fine. And here's the thing. Wild Wave. You need to understand. I'm going to say it one last time. Every team is required to lose premium players. That is a fundamental process of the cap. Period. You are going to lose premium players. That is why there is a cap. The point is, you have to be able to replace those players. You have to be able to replace those players. And that is where drafting comes into play. Okay, Wild Wave. The Chiefs lost Tyreek Hill. They're about to go win 3 back-to-back-to-back Super Bowls. That's a premium player. They lost their left tackle. That's a premium player. So they bumped out Joe Thuney to left tackle. What I'm saying is, the point of saying that the cap isn't real is that we can move money around. And that all we need to do if you're the New York Jets is you need to manipulate 25 and 26. That's it. Because in 27, we're totally fine. So if you can get these contracts to work for 25 and 26, you're fine. You're totally fine. And that's what you can do. And like just some simple moves that you do to do those things, to just like, and I'm talking like really, really easy, simple moves that aren't all that complicated this year, is if you restructure three players, if you restructure the Devontae Adams contract, if you restructure the Aaron Rodgers contract, and you restructure the Quinnen Williams contract, you create $65 million in cap this year. That's a lot of money. So that's a lot of money. Now, what you're going to say, you have to pay the piper, right? Totally. But a lot of those dead caps don't hit until 2027. We talked about this and you sent the tweet. The cap went up 13%. That was $30 million. So if the cap goes up another 13% and then goes up another 13%, we wouldn't mind. It wouldn't stop us. And here's the thing. Totally. I understand this sentiment. But you know who's not going to be with this? Aaron Glenn. Because there isn't a quarterback that's available that's going to help you win games. Aaron Glenn is not going to want to start his tenure as a New York Jets head coach losing games. There's not a quarterback that's available that's going to be able to win you games. Aaron Rodgers can win you games. Where? There's the thing, Jake. Who's going to go get him? Who's going to go get Aaron Rodgers? Here's the key. Who's going to go get Aaron Rodgers and pay him more than $20 million? Because none of the money that Aaron Rodgers is due is guaranteed. So he has a $37.5 million roster bonus that is due to him if he's on the roster at the beginning of this year. The Raiders are going to pay him $20 million? Aaron is going to go play for Tom Brady? That's going to happen? This matters. Aaron is going to go play for Tom Brady. I don't think his ego is going to let him do that. I don't think he's going to do that. I don't think he's not going to play for Tom Brady. Come on. We know that's not real. Totally. You need a quarterback to evaluate. You know what we need to evaluate this roster? A competent offensive staff. Because here's the thing, like going back to this thing, right? I think a lot of people are doom and gloom because the season failed so badly. Like, dude, statistically, like, okay, let me ask you this question. Everybody's really high on CJ Stroud, right? Aaron Rodgers was better statistically than CJ Stroud this year. Should the Houston Texans try to trade away CJ Stroud? No, Jake, we aren't. We don't have to. That's the point. None of the money that he has due is guaranteed. The cap hit is going to happen regardless because we already paid him that money. There's a difference between the cap hit, Jake, and the money that's owed. We can cut Aaron Rodgers and he loses $37 million. He doesn't see a dime of that money. He doesn't see a dime of it. All of the money that was guaranteed to him in the contract, he has received already. So if we cut him, he does not see a dime of that $37.5 million. So if he wants to make any of that money back, he would need to play in the NFL for an NFL franchise. And it doesn't seem like that there is any team out there that would be willing to take the bet on Aaron Rodgers. And more importantly, that Aaron Rodgers would want to go to. Because Aaron Rodgers isn't going to want to go to the Raiders. Aaron Rodgers wants an opportunity to go win a Super Bowl, right? But Wild Wave, that's what I'm saying. The stats don't tell the whole story. Because we were a 4-win team. If we had a competent kicker, we would win 8 games. No, it makes a massive difference if we cut him. It makes a massive difference if we cut him. If we cut him, we lose all of our cap. We have no cap. We have $20 million in cap space right now. If we cut him, we go to negative $5 million in cap space. So it absolutely matters if we cut him. The money, we have to pay the piper, as Wild Wave said. Exactly. This is what I'm saying. The reason I have joined the Keep Rodgers Club, honestly, is because of the Washington Commanders. I was talking about this last night in my spontaneous live stream to Yelled at Wild Wave. And it was... the Commanders were a football team that if you look at the Commanders on paper, and even if you look at the stats for the Commanders, with whatever metric that you want to go with, right? If you look at the Commanders, they are not a team that should be in the NFC Championship game. It does not make sense at all. Their overall team ranking, according to PFF, was 20th. Their offensive ranking was 15th. Their defensive ranking was 29th. Their special teams ranking was 11th. Yet, they were able to go out there, and in the playoffs, anything can happen, and they beat the Bucs, a team that on paper and objectively is better than them. But coaching matters. Todd Bowles, don't think he's a good head coach. Dan Quinn, think he's a good head coach. And Cliff Kingsbury went out there and outdueled new head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars in Liam Cohen. Then they went up against who I think everybody thought was going to go to the Super Bowl in the Detroit Lions. Boom. Outduels Ben Johnson, new head coach of the, coaching matters. And when you get into the playoffs, anything can happen. And that, I think, is the point. My children happened. I go to the eye doctor on on Friday, and I hopefully have new glasses next week. But my 2-year-old happened. It's more than just a kicker. Aaron's arm was limited and his decision-making was poor. What was this dunk and dunk offseason? Here's the thing. You're totally right. His arm was limited, but he could still make all of the throws. He just didn't have the elite accuracy that he had once before. But also, Wild Wave, let's not act like the pressures of having to be the guy for the New York Jets. Okay. How do I word this? Because it's going to come out wrong and I need to make... Here's the thing. This is the third pair. It's the third pair. But like my thing was, I'm going to get a new prescription soon, so let me not replace it. And I got into that like loop. And then it was like, oh, we're going to get new insurance, so like I don't need to replace it. And so like you get to that. So that's where I'm at. Like, here's the thing. Here is the point that I'm trying to make, Wild Wave, is that Aaron needed to call the offense on the offensive line, adjust the coverage on the offensive line, and then also try to like make all those throws and do all those things, while worrying about the fact that Tyron Smith was a turnstile and that he was going to get destroyed from his left side because for some reason our coaching staff didn't like Olu Fashanu for some reason. So here's the point. Aaron, totally, yeah, he's a limited quarterback. As of right now, he's 41. Yes, Wild Wave. He did want Nathaniel Hackett as his offensive coordinator. And they built an offense that had guys that were open, but we didn't have a left tackle that could block. But here's the other thing. Wild Wave, we talked about this. Salah hamstrung the offense. The offensive play calling by design from Salah and from Ulbrich was run, run, pass, run, run, pass, run, run, pass. There was zero opportunity to be creative. And here's the thing. He still put up the best quarterback season the New York Jets had ever seen. If we had a kicker, we have 8 wins this year. If we don't fire Robert Saleh and we have a kicker so that the defense doesn't fall apart, we probably have 10 wins this year. If we're being honest, if we have a defense that can hold 2 times this year, we win a game. Like, that's the whole point. I get it, whatever. Rodgers isn't the Rodgers of old. I get that, but I don't want to waste a year. I don't want to just throw away another year. Like, that's the point. Parcells came into this team and turned this team around from a 1-win team to a 9-win team. Why can't Aaron Glenn do the same thing? Why are we so given up and it's like, oh, we got it? No, we have a freaking really good roster. This roster right now, with the players that we have right now, on paper is better than what the commies have. We freaking beat the Buffalo Bills with Zach Wilson twice. The Houston Texans won 10 games this year. They haven't been able to beat the New York Jets. And Jets Worldwide, thank you. Let's not act like we were a disciplined team. Wasting a year just because, I don't like Rodgers and he didn't do good, is so mind-boggling to me. Because, okay, you don't bring back Rodgers? Cool. What QB is going to come in and win you games this offseason? None? Fine. So then you're resolving to the fact that you're wasting up the last year of Breece Hall because we're not going to extend Breece Hall. You're doing the last straw with Garrett Wilson because Garrett Wilson's not going to want to stick around after doing 3 years of quarterback this, quarterback that, quarterback this, quarterback that, and then a new coaching regime, and then we punt on the only quarterback that's going to be able to win us games. So you're saying goodbye to Garrett Wilson because he's going to request a trade because he's not going to want to stick around. That's the point. I don't want to waste a year. 2026 is the year that I want to get a quarterback, and I hope that Darren Mougey and Aaron Glenn see this roster and pull a San Francisco 49ers. Let's give up 2-3 first-round pick. Let's go up and get our guy. Let's go do that. I'm all for that. And I'm not even going to sit here and say that with Aaron Rodgers, we're going to go win the Super Bowl because I can't say that. But Aaron Rodgers gives us the best opportunity to get into the playoffs. That's a fact. And if we can get into the playoffs, anything can happen. We beat the Buffalo Bills with Zach Wilson. The Zebras had to get involved to stop Zach Wilson from beating Patrick Mahomes. That was 2 years ago, but still. And we all know Zach Wilson isn't even good enough to be a CFL quarterback, let alone an NFL one. He's not explosive diarrhea, but that's besides the point. There we go. Exactly, Jake. Exactly. Yeah, they did. They weren't penalized. And here's the thing. Look at the defensive penalties versus the offensive penalties, because that matters, Wild Wave. They were 21st in penalties. Do we think we got to rebuild right now and sell off the best roster we've had since Rex, or try to win one more time? We can still sell it next year, or trade deadline. So trade deadline's not a real thing in the NFL. Sadly, I wish it was. But like my whole thing is, the players that you would want to sell this year aren't going to provide you with anything concrete. Like what I mean by that is the players that you would have to trade this year. So for example, Breece Hall. If you want to trade and if you're going to sell the team and you're going to rip it to the studs and you're going to start over, Breece Hall is going to be the first player that you're going to try to trade, because he's out of a contract after this year. This is the last year of his deal, and unfortunately, he's a running back, and we just drafted Braden Allen, so like we don't need Breece Hall. Technically, he is an expendable piece, and he was always going to be an expendable piece for the New York Jets, you know? And so 107 penalties. The New York Jets had 137. That's not close. Delay game, false start, offensive holding, offensive pass interference, offense, defensive holding, offsides. Okay, so let's look at their defensive penalties. Where did the Detroit Lions get a majority of their penalties? A lot of the penalties that they got last year was defensive of pass interference. That was what they got penalized the most last year, was defensive pass interference. And then nothing else on defense, really. Everything else was 16 false starts, 13 offensive holdings, offensive pass interference, offsides. Like, it's not a lot. We had 137 penalties last year. The Detroit Lions were towards the bottom of the list with 107. We were number one. They were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. They were 21st. Yeah, that's true. Jets were first. The Lions were 21st. They were bottom half of the league when it came to penalties. That matters. That's an additional... We gave up an additional 200 yards to penalties. That's huge. Huge. 200 yards that we gave up. $13, $16, $20, $38, $42, $47. 47 penalties. Of their 107, were on the defensive side of the ball. 47. The New York Jets last year had 14, 18, 40, 58, 60 penalties on defense. 60 of our 137 penalties came on defense. 47 of the Detroit Lions were on defense. That is 13 more penalties. That is free yardage that we just gave. Ironically, the most penalized group for the Detroit Lions was the offense. And we didn't bring Ben Johnson. We got Tanner Engstrand. But still, the New York Jets offense was also the side of the ball that really was the side that was penalized. We had 30, 46, 47, 59. Nope. 8, 9, 19, 49 plus 16. Do that math. That's how many we had. Drew! Thank you for becoming a member of the Talking Jets with Tego Navy. Welcome, Chief. But yeah, our offense was ironically the group that got penalized the most last year, and that was because our offensive coaching staff was horrible. But yeah. First time here, love the vibes. Had to vote. Well, thank you. Welcome, Drew. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. It really does help. I need new glasses, and all of this stuff goes. What I really need is a new mic, because my mic is broken. And you guys don't know that, because there's a bunch of stuff happening, and that is what I'm trying to replace. So all of the stuff that happens here comes back and going to YouTube. So I appreciate all of you guys for hanging out with me, hitting the like button, and all of those things. And that's the last time I'm going to do an ad fit or anything like that. Sauce Gardner a PI every game. Look, totally. And I'm not going to make an excuse for that. Not going to make an excuse for that. Jake also becoming a petty officer in the Tego Navy. Thank you so much for joining, Jake. You guys are the best. For the glasses. Love you guys. So here's the thing, Joshua. You're totally right. Sauce was handsy since college, and coming into the NFL, he was always handsy. But here's what I think the NFL did Sauce real dirty. In his first 2 years, Sauce was handsy just as much as he was in his third year. Never got called on it. And then magically in the third year, they start calling him on DPI every single time. That's doing my boy dirty. Look, get your hands off the guy. You don't need to be holding him. You can keep your hands on him, but stop closing your fist. Totally. And that's coaching. And obviously we didn't have good coaching. And Aaron Glenn was a DB. He's going to fix that crap immediately. But, dude, they did our boy dirty a little bit. Oh, absolutely, Drew. And now that we're settled in and we're moved in and the kids are on their sleep schedule and everything is fine, we're going to be going live a lot more. So stick around. Stick around. Let's see. AR fired Wilks as head coach after one season. San Francisco fired him as a DC after one season. What the F could possibly go wrong in New York for him? Horrendous hire by Glenn. I totally disagree. San Francisco scapegoated him. San Francisco's defense was phenomenal with Steve Wilks and got worse when he left. The 49ers defense ranked 8th in total yards under Steve Wilks. They ranked 12th in EPA and 3rd in points allowed. All of those stats got worse when he left. And let's not act like and he's not the head coach. I don't want Steve Wilks as the head coach. He failed as a head coach. Totally failed as a head coach. I'm not going to sit here and argue and try to say that Arizona did. No. He was not a good head coach for the Arizona Cardinals in 2018. Totally. But to sit here and act like he didn't, when he was a DC, he didn't manufacture some of the best defenses around. like top defenses for being a defensive coordinator? This too. Josh Rosen. That's a trivia question. In the Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson, Sam Darnold, and Baker Mayfield draft, there was another quarterback taken in the first round. Who was it? This is going to be a trivia question. Give it like 5 more years. No, it didn't collapse in the Super Bowl against KC. That was a defensive masterclass, that game. What the mistake that Wilks did was he sent pressure in the red zone against Patrick Mahomes. And that's not really a mistake. That's what he did. They lost the game because they sent pressure and the pressure didn't get there. That's what happened. That game went to overtime because both of those defense stood on their heads to stop both of those offenses. You gotta dig deeper, man. Gotta dig deeper. They fired him as a scapegoat because Shanahan, rightfully so, and I can't believe that San Francisco even thinks about this a little bit. But San Francisco, there's a little bit of a fire going on underneath Shanahan. Because Shanahan might end up being the next Andy Reid, a coach that has no business getting fired because they're really, really damn good and gets fired anyway because he can't do the thing. Let's not forget that happened to Andy Reid with, was it McNabb? Who was the quarterback for Philly when he got fired? Why do I think it's not McNabb? Was it Donovan McNabb? Was it McNabb? What? I don't remember. The point is, you get what I'm saying. The point is, Wilks got scapegoated. So, yeah. Sauce needs to turn his head. That's the real problem. Yeah, but it's hard. It's hard to turn your head in those situations, and I'm not going to sit here and come up with excuses. Totally needs to turn his head. That's coaching. And we got better coaches now, hopefully. I know we do. Yeah. Sauce always been an aggressive corner going back to college. Even for a down year, he was still solid. Oh, yeah, totally. He was like still top 8 in almost every corner stat. Wilks did a great job as the interim head coach in Carolina. Also true. It kind of collapsed when the Greenlaw got injured. That injury changed the momentum of the game. Not just the momentum of the game. It got rid of a really, really important piece and option for San Francisco. But it wasn't always Vic. Was it always Vic? Drew, you're totally right. I was talking about it that we would have been better served. Me and Jake were talking about it. That we would have been better served just letting Tyron Smith and Morgan Moses coach the offensive line. Yeah, they gave up 19 points. You can say that one more time for the people in the back. Who is his quarterback? I can see his face. Why am I talking about Andy Reid? We don't need to talk about Andy Reid. Forget Andy Reid. This is the New York goddamn Jets. But yeah. Yeah. One of the things that I think you guys all need to pay attention to. That's a bad showing? That was Doug Peterson, Cameron. I'm pulling up the box scores. Kansas City versus San Francisco. The box score. Kansas City scored 3 points in the second quarter, 10 points in the third quarter, and 6 points in the fourth quarter. That game ended 25-22. In a modern NFL, that is a defensive masterclass. That is a defensive masterclass in today's day and age when you're not allowed to play defense. They got 3 sacks. 3 sacks and an interception. The defense, dude, San Francisco didn't lose because of their defense. San Francisco lost because Brock Purdy is turd. He went 23 of 38 for 255 yards and a touchdown. That's why San Francisco lost. Wasn't because of the defense. It's because Brock Purdy's not a good quarterback. Because didn't San Francisco get the ball first? Wasn't that how it played out? And they went down there and they got 3 turns? 3 points instead of getting the touchdown? Big Al, I love you, my guy, but I'm sorry. I get your facts right. I get your facts right. That's all I'm saying. I get your facts right. Like, just no idea, Cam. No idea. I don't think Andy Reid had any overlap with Carson Wentz. Did they? I don't know. I don't care. Mangold could show up drunk to every meeting and do a better job than Keith Carter with the offensive line. He's got a better resume, too. Mangold was an offensive line coach for his local high school. Don't say that. That's disrespectful. Come on. Zach Wilson can throw the ball very far. Brock Purdy can't. Okay? Don't disrespect Zach like that. I know we don't like him because he failed as the quarterback of the New York Jets, but he still holds the record for the fastest pass in the NFL. I think. I keep saying that like it's true. I believe it's Zach Wilson. I think it's like 69 miles an hour. I don't remember. Yeah, I believe it was. Mangold, I was watching after the intro press conference. I wish he would come in. I really do too. But like, you got to get to a certain point where it's just like, relax. Relax. Yes, it was Chip Kelly. It was Chip Kelly. No, Joe Milton has the second fastest throw. Jordan Love now holds the record. Jesus, Jordan Love? I didn't know he had it like that. Oh, okay. Zach Wilson has the fastest throw of a football ever because Next Gen Stats caught him throwing a 69 mile per hour pass in practice, but he never did it in a game, so he doesn't hold the record. Jordan Love has the record. Got it. There it is. But Zach Wilson has thrown a football the fastest according to Next Gen Stats. Yes, we did, Brendan. We were just talking about it. Dude, that's according to Next Gen Stats. If you look up the list, fastest throw, it shows up Jordan Love, 62 miles an hour. It's crazy because I did not have that as my 61.98 miles per hour. This year he did it. That wasn't on my bingo card, but that's true. So, that's wild. That's wild. Alrighty, boys. We've been live for almost 2 hours. And I think I'm going to call it there. Because I'm hungry. And I need food. And I don't know what I'm going to do for food. And it's getting late. So I'm going to go do that. Thank you, everybody, for hanging out this wonderful, wonderful evening. Special thanks to Jake and Drew for joining the Talking Jets with Tigo Navy. I appreciate you guys for joining the Get Tigo Some New Glasses Fund. It's really, really nice of you to do that. Thank you for everybody who hung out with us this evening. Lots of things to talk about, lots of things to look forward to moving forward for the New York Jets. Thank you for everybody who hit the like button on the way out. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button. It's free and it really, really helps the channel. I appreciate all of you. Stay tuned. We got new content coming on the Talking Jets with Tigo channel. My name is Tigo.